The art of sealing is an art that is greatly undermined in the Narutoverse. Many forget that this was the art that made the Uzumaki clan so powerful that many dreaded going to battle with them. Through the use of mostly sealing jutsu and techniques, they became so powerful that nations banded together just to end them. Many forget that this is also the art that made the fourth Hokage feared among all the nations. The art of sealing is said to have originated with the Uzumaki clan. We also know that Kushina Uzumaki, the mother of Naruto, comes from this clan. In the main story, Naruto is never introduced to the art of sealing. I always ask myself what would have happened if Naruto was introduced to the art of sealing. I was about to write a fanfiction on what would have happened, but fortunately enough, I came across a similar fanfiction to what I had in mind. I read the fanfiction so that you don't have to. Welcome to Rooster's What Ifs. We post videos of similar nature each and every week. We are trying to grow as a channel so that we can post more videos which will be more entertaining and exciting to watch. So make sure that you smack that subscribe button so we can bring you more exciting videos you can watch. With that out of the way, let's begin. Chapter 1. Naruto Uzumaki had a problem. He realized this early in his life. Everyone seemed to speak in some code he couldn't simply understand, not fully, like they were nonsenses or something he just couldn't grasp. People made no sense to him, and yet they fascinated him. He watched people a lot to see if they could find a pattern, and while he sometimes thought he did, it was never as consistent as he'd liked it to be, and yet they fascinated him. He watched people a lot to see if he could find a pattern, and while sometimes he thought he did, it was never as consistent as he'd like it to be. Confounding people were. What made matters worse is that these people, for a reason he hadn't always known, simply didn't like him. When he was 7, he asked the local shopkeeper why he gave the young blonde such dirty looks, why everyone did. Granted that the Uzumaki didn't phrase it the best when he asked, "What's your deal?" The gentleman was startled that the notorious child would speak to him directly and so bluntly. "Nothing's my deal, leave," the shopkeeper said, which caused Naruto to turn his head sideways in confusion. "Yes, there is. You dislike me, but I've never done anything to you. I want to know why." This caused the man to get nervous. He didn't think the kid was the fox, but how could a small child truly contain it? What if he got hurt or upset or even died? But how can you handle being afraid of a child? Even as a civilian, dislike, disregard, or ostracization was better than feeling fear. But he couldn't say that. He couldn't admit his shame. He died doing it, so he simply brushed the small child away with his broom and closed his shop for the rest of the day. He'd drink all night, trying not to think about the unfairness of being feared and having no idea why. Naruto asked several more people that day and got the same answer. His grandfather told him to stop asking people as well. His grandfather told him to stop asking people as they wouldn't say. He also said he wouldn't say. Naruto realized he was beaten, but decided to extract a little sweetener. If he wasn't going to get his answer, a favor from the Hokage. Because Naruto didn't get people, if it wasn't people watching, he spent much of his time either reading or playing or training in the forest. Books made sense. Nature made sense. People, Naruto would argue vehemently, did not. And it was this lack of understanding that had him initially do so poorly in school. The young Uzumaki wasn't dumb, he just didn't see the point in how the academy taught. They tell you to read a book and then present the same information to you in the same way as the book did. How is that learning? It's memorization. Getting better at spelling. That's good. It's memorization, and it bored him. Iruka Sensei fussed at Naruto a lot to try harder. Naruto argued he would if they'd actually teach something useful. As far as Naruto was concerned, what passed for explanation were piss poor. The perfect example would be the clone jutsu. Naruto couldn't perform the clone jutsu. He knew it. Iruka sensei knew. His class knew it. When Naruto sought advice, he only got claptrap about lack of chakra control. Just improve your chakra. Just improve your chakra control, Naruto. What does that mean? The better you control your chakra, the better you can perform your jutsu. But what does control mean? Is there a unit? How many units of chakra does the clone... Wait, sorry about that, guys. But what does control mean? Is there a unit? How many units of chakra does a clone jutsu take? You just have to feel it, Naruto. You've been an utter disappointment, the unknown Jinchuriki said, and Iruka watched the 8-year-old walk out of his classroom. Naruto would face similar trials. His taijutsu was okay, but limited because he didn't have a training partner and developed bad habits because of it. The skills he could develop without help were some of the better of the class. Not the top, but not the middle of the pack either. His taijutsu was okay, but limited because he didn't have a training partner and developed bad habits because of it. The skills he could develop without help were some of the better of the class. Not the top, but not at the middle of the pack either. An 8-year-old Naruto had planned to resign himself to being a stranger in a strange land forever. To never fully understand people or their things. Until one day, Iruka sensei gave a brief demonstration of basic fuenjutsu. The blonde was instantly hooked. He couldn't explain it, but it just made sense. The symbols and how they flowed and the end product. He wanted. No, needed to learn that art. He even called in a favor from his grandfather to do so. Now, Naruto, you must be extremely careful with even the basics of fuenjutsu, and your calligraphy must be perfect. If I see you being irresponsible, I will take your materials away until you mature. This guy decided to use Japanese subtitles for whatever reason. I don't know why, but yeah. Define irresponsible, Oji-sen. Attempting things you haven't properly prepared for, rushing through the levels when you have firmed up your skills. What if I demonstrate the required skills through some sort of project or test before I move to another level? Naruto asked. That would be sufficient. Then we have an accord, the blonde said, reaching out a hand. The Hokage smiled as he shook it. Naruto had a slightly elevated speech pattern as he refined his skills through reading aloud. As the subjects increased in difficulty, it shaped his word selection. One last thing, you can't skip the academy no matter how interesting you find fuenjutsu, Hiruzen said and cackled at the boy's pout. He'd had that issue early on and knew to stipulate Naruto's continued attendance or the boy would just pursue his interest relentlessly. The day Naruto got the 10,000-page volume of fuenjutsu, several guides on calligraphy and the calligraphy set was life-changing. The day Naruto got the 10,000-page volumes of fuenjutsu, several guides on calligraphy and the calligraphy set was life-changing. He made steady progress for the rest of the school year with his chosen topic. He'd basically forgone doing anything but the bare minimum as far as bookwork went. But still did well on the practical exercises. Iruka sensei wasn't happy, but couldn't do much as the Nara Air did the bare minimum as well. He'd managed to make it through the first 2 volumes by the end of the academy year, progressing by 1 volume each and every 2 months. Hiruzen remained impressed. The first 2 volumes were the basic of basics, seal recognition, the foundational languages of seal for the first part, culminating in the story seal. The second was an introduction to synced and localized reactions. For example, explosive tags as well as building multi-factored. The second was an introduction in synced and localized reactions. For example, explosive tags and as well as building multifaceted arrays. Yeah. Is it me or do you guys, I don't know, man. I don't know how to describe this feeling, but do you guys ever feel like when you're reading like difficult words, saliva just builds up in your mouth for no reason? Like, can't even pronounce these words. Saliva is just coming out of nowhere. But anyway, Naruto got a warm feeling when his OG-sen praised him. Naruto got a warm feeling when his OG-sen praised him. When he asked what that meant, his OG-sen said it was likely a mixture of several emotions. That when someone was praised, it made them feel proud and acknowledged. The feeling increasingly when someone close to them did it sincerely. It was the first time Naruto realized you could feel multiple emotions at once. He realized that complicated his theories on why people reacted the way they did, as he was making erroneous assumptions on their emotional state. He'd have to return to the drawing board. When the summer break occurred, Naruto was able to make significant leaps in his sealing abilities, which led to the increase in many of his other skills. As the summer break approached, the blonde knew there were many things he wanted to get accomplished, and without a plan, he'd be insufficient. His OG-sen stressed the importance of efficient working habits to maximize productivity. Naruto, trusting his OG-sen, read several books on project management. He first identified his mission, which was to find a means to address as many deficits in his shinobi skills as possible. First and foremost would be chakra control. In order to do this, he'd have to figure out why his chakra control was so bad in the first place. He'd find his solution through seals. Volume 3 of his Fuinjutsu books was about manipulating chakra networks. This volume demonstrated how chakra suppressors, paralyzing seals, and shock tags, and even resistance seals worked, how they connected to the chakra system, and the effects on the body. The volume included a detailed diagram of the chakra system along with the placement of every tenketsu. Volume 4 included the beginnings of barrier and other security seals, including methods to detect chakra and motion. Naruto finished them the first month of his break, and as they inspired him, he didn't move on to any other volumes. Naruto was determined to fix his chakra control. He experimented with 12 different designs, with thousands attempts at each, before he found a satisfactory sealing array to measure chakra. He was fortunate his OG-sen participated so he'd love a comparison. The blonde was surprised when his chakra reserves were comparable to his OG-sen, and he realized that he was not normal. When he learned that, he immediately went to the library to read up on chakra networks, and it didn't take long to find out that one's chakra network expanded as one aged or trained, and chakra capacity expanded with it. He reasoned his network simply wasn't mature enough to handle his chakra, and controlled exercise would fix that. Come on, bro. He reasoned his network simply wasn't mature enough to handle his chakra, and controlled exercise wouldn't fix that reality. Naruto realized his reserves were basically flooding his network. He needed to find a way to direct the excess chakra anyway. He needed to find a way to direct the excess chakra away. Find a method to expand his network so it could handle the flow of chakra, or both. As the blonde sketched ideas about a supplementary chakra network, he ran into a serious problem. There would be no way for him to apply this kind of seal onto himself. Another issue was the giant complex seal found on his stomach. It wasn't until he ran into his OG-sen would he find a solution for one by discovering the other. Hiruzen had no visible signs of distress as his favorite blonde calmly inquired about the seal on his tummy. He sometimes forgot Naruto was a container, a sacrifice, as he only saw his surrogate grandson. That the boy was generally low maintenance aided in that. If he asked a question, give him the information or cut the deal, and Naruto would go on about his day. But the boy could be unpredictable. His early isolation made it difficult for him to express his or accurate gauge other people's emotions. He often had to verbalize how he was feeling and to be He often had to verbalize how he was feeling and be told directly how others would feel as well. Outside of guilt of Naruto being affected in such a way, he simply didn't know how the boy would handle this information. He may accept it with no problem, or it may overwhelm him. Hiruzen didn't want to take the chance, so he did something that should have been below the god of shinobi. He bribed the Uzumaki with a jutsu if he waited until he graduated to find out about the seal and didn't attempt to decipher it. I need a semi-autonomous clone. You got anything like that? All corporal clones could fit that description, Naruto-kun. What's the best clone jutsu? Best is relative. Best Best is relative to the situation. In aim or Curie, the water clone is handy and not taxing. The stone and mud clone are durable. Are they all elemental clones? Oji-san? No, there is another. It is quite taxing on one's chakra. Chakra I have. True, I know I'm going to regret this, but I will teach you the shadow clone jutsu. But Naruto-kan, you are never to send your clone to school for you. Why would I do that? Wouldn't learn anything if I did. The clone transmit their memories and any unused chakra back to the creator once they dispelled. Oh, this sounds like the greatest jutsu ever invented. My sensei would likely be honored you think so. Hiruzen said as he ran his hand across Naruto's hair, causing the boy to smile. He handled Naruto's nature so much as it mirrored Tobirama sensei. He spoke often about Tobirama to Naruto, partially to reassure the boy that he could be a great ninja ever with his quirks. The two traveled to a training ground where Naruto would learn what would be his signature jutsu while enjoying a brisk fall day with his favorite person. It would be 2 weeks before the start of winter. It would be 2 weeks before the start of the winter break, before Naruto completed his supplementary chakra network seal. His clones painstakingly drew it on his body, having to draw very small seals on many of his tenketsu. It was a 5-hour process, and he was glad he'd paid attention to the mediation unit at the academy. He may have loved to read, but he was still energetic and often had to run around or train before he could really dig into his materials. The clones activated the seal, and it did hurt for several seconds, but the pain subsided after a few minutes. Naruto sat in a lotus position and did the chakra circulation exercise. He was amazed at how much more fluid his chakra flow was. How he didn't have to fight to direct it. He could feel the artificial network aiding in guiding the chakra. He performed that for an hour before attempting the clone jutsu. His clones still went right, but there was progress. Naruto concluded he'd have to work on chakra control. It just wouldn't be as hard, nor would the ceiling for how much control he could obtain be really, really low. Over the break, Naruto would assign several clones. His Oji-sen limited him to 5 to chakra control. They'd place leaves everywhere on their bodies for as long as they could. Naruto decided to tackle another problem. He'd noticed the clan children were starting to pull ahead in taijutsu. Naruto could best most of the non-clan children, but he'd struggle with all the clan children. Naruto could best most non-clan children, but he struggled with all the clan kids. Except the Nara, who wouldn't even try. This was not something he was happy about. He didn't want others to do poorly, but he wanted to win, to be better, if not the best. His Oji-sen had said there was a sense of competitiveness and rivalry. He said those were fine in moderation. That if Naruto ever felt he'd do anything to win against his comrades, he'd gone too far. That trying to be the best is fine, but he shouldn't look down on others or forget that ultimately they were on the same side. It was good to have a label on the emotion and know it should have limits. But knowing what motivated him wasn't going to fix his problem. He spoke to his Oji-sen at length about it. He didn't like the academy style. It felt too stiff and too basic. His Oji-sen had chuckled and said it was basic. That was the point. He said the academy library had access to different styles, but Naruto should have a general idea of what kind of style he wanted. Naruto nodded but frowned. Learning a new style without direction would lead him to a similar problem he was having now. Naruto and his clones would think on the problem. The entire night. A solution wouldn't present itself until dawn. The difficulties of self-teaching a taijutsu style is not knowing if the kata are correct or habitualizing mistakes or gaps in form. But he had no dedicated teacher nor family to aid him. That thought caused him discomfort, but he ignored it. What he needed is a method to drill perfect form into him without needing someone to watch over him. Seals were going to be the solution. If, Naruto thought, he could create a seal that could record movement, it would be a start. He could then build an array that would use those pre-recorded movements as the baseline. As Naruto worked through the kata, he could have a slight shock to alert him he'd done the movement wrong. No shocks meant he did it right. This would be a highly advanced application of many of the techniques found in security seals. It would be difficult, but Naruto was confident he could figure it out. He'd only need to find someone good enough and willing to be recorded. And while that would solve one problem, it wouldn't be enough. Perfect kata doesn't make one a perfect fighter. He would still need someone to train against. As winter set in throughout Fire Country, Naruto started the next volume. He'd practice his calligraphy every day, and he would have his clones reread the other texts. And he absorbed new information. His Ojisan requested he remind him about the art, but wouldn't explain why. The fifth volume was an introduction to intermediate sealing theory. It included new languages, ideas about chakra, and the start on log and algorithms. The volume also discussed how to translate various elements of ninjutsu into fuenjutsu, focusing mainly on infusing elements into barriers and ideas on how to suppress jutsu. It was difficult for the uzumaki, and he had to consult many outside texts and his Ojisan, but he managed to work through it in 3 months' time, finishing right before spring. The sixth volume was focused on application, techniques on increasing the speed one wrote, how to write on the move, how to etch seals into hard surfaces such as rocks or foundations to increase their stability. The technique called chakra engraving allowed for a concentrated microblade of chakra to be made via a conduit. Chakra etching was rare because it took a long time compared to the ink-based or the materialization method, but they were longer and lasting. And more secure from the outside influence, as it took another etching to interact with the seal. It also required a good bit of chakra control, more than the leaf sticking exercise would be granted. Luckily, the volume included direction on surface and various iterations of water walking. It would take a month and many complaining, freezing clones to master all those exercises, but it was worth it in the end, as Naruto had taken to using Senbon to etch and would do it for fun on the weekends. It was worth it in the end, as Naruto had taken to using Senbon to etch and would do it for fun on the weekends. By mid-May, the 9-year-old Uzumaki had gotten his motion capture array down. However, it would end up being a small part of his overall development. He showed his Ojisan and explained his idea. He even had the style picked out. It was the pancake, is it? Yeah. Is it? Is this pancake or pancake? I'm just gonna call it pancake. It was the pancake silat, a style mostly practiced by the southern southernmost tribes during the Warring Clans era. It was rarely practiced now, but his Ojisan knew someone that was familiar with it and agreed to request the Jonin's help. Naruto met the Jonin a week after the summer break began, and the man was unusual. Hello, you must be the most youthful Naruto-kun, the bowl-cut, green-wearing Enigma shouted. Naruto was located on the Hokage's private training ground. It had several clearings, a large pond, and even some rock formations, but mostly obscured by extreme tall trees. Hi, although I'm not the youngest in my class, so I'm the most youthful. Naruto answered. His Oji-san stressed the importance of being honest outside of ninja missions. Ha 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 ha. Ha 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 ha. Wait. How does Guy laugh? Might Guy laugh? Actually. Ha 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 ha. Ha 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 ha. Ha 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 ha. Youthfulness is not about age, Naruto-kun. Even our August Hokage is alight with the flames of youth, Guy said, and then adopted a nice guy pose. Naruto was taken aback by his enthusiasm. He found it interesting. So a metaphor? Yes, exactly. Oh, okay then. Should we get started? I don't want to take up too much of your time. Yosh, let's get started. Naruto put the ceiling tags on any point of the articulation on Guy and activated the larger seal on the Naruto put the ceiling tags on any point of articulation on Guy and then activated the larger seal he had the taijutsu master stand on. He then watched, amazed as Guy went through every kata of strike and juras found in the discipline. Seeing the style in action reassured Naruto he'd selected correctly. It could be fast, flexible, and unpredictable. It used the entire body for offense and defense while incorporating grapples and takedowns. The blonde was also amazed by Guy's abilities. The man just breezed through the exercise. Naruto was so focused on Guy he didn't even notice his Oji-san arriving along with a small monkey summoned. When he got Naruto's attention, the Uzumaki was elated. His Oji-san called it, and even more so when he explained he wanted his summons to record some buki jutsu forms, specifically for a quarterstaff, as it seemed to fit Naruto more, and also for rattan sticks that were used to specifically for quarterstaff, as it seemed to fit Naruto more, and also for rattan sticks that were used in Eskrima. I don't know what that is, but yeah. Naruto wasted no time getting more seals ready for the summons. A white and grey haired male. Naruto wasted no time getting more seals ready for the summons. A white and grey haired male named Ubu. After Guy finished performing the training guides, Naruto thanked him and went to set up Ubu. He may not be able to express it fully, but you've made him extremely happy, Guy. Thank you, Hiruzen said as he watched his summon and his surrogate grandson interact. It was the least I could do, Hokage-sama. And while I'm not an expert, Naruto-kun seems to be something of a prodigy when it comes to Fuinjutsu. I would have to agree. I went from worrying he'd fall out of a tree in some remote section of the village to him blowing himself up. Rambunctious in a feature of youth. I know, Guy, and I'd never begrudge him it. I know, Guy, and I'd never begrudge him in it. It makes him happy, and he is progressing rapidly. Now, if I could only get him to apply himself in school so everyone else would know. Is he not doing well? He does as he does as well as he wants to do. He feels that much of the information the academy teaches is irrelevant. He argued once that if we were expected to memorize the names of the Hokage, there wouldn't be so many books in the library about them. Guy chuckled at that. Excess of information must mean it isn't worth retaining for longer than you need it. The argument has a certain amount of logic to it. Oh, why no? But I don't want him to walk. I don't want him walking around without common sense or basic facts. So I just asked him to do it for me, and he complied. Well, I must speak of Hokage-sama, but I created this exercise regimen for Naruto-kan, so he'll get the most out of his new taijutsu style. Thank you, Guy. Thank you again, Guy. My pleasure. Guy's workout plan presents Naruto with another problem. Wait, I don't know whether I should say this, but I think this is actually a time skip. It's not the same moment. But yeah, if you ever, I think, yeah, there's a small pause, that means it's a time skip. Yeah, but yeah, let's get into it. Guy's workout plan presents Naruto with another problem. Naruto wanted to get the most out of it. Naruto wanted to get the most out of the routine and not push himself too hard, as he had planned to use the modified resistance seals that went up percentages instead of full levels. But how could he track his progress in a precise way and chart his development? And to do so in a way that wouldn't require clones and a lot of equipment, he instructed his clones to think up a solution. All 10, as his Oji-san let him increase his maximum. When he woke up the next day, he was surprised by the solution. He'd need books on medical ninjutsu and genjutsu to make it work. He decided to leave that to the clones and let them do most of the legwork. He'd love working on fuinjutsu and reading more stuff. He'd love to work on fuinjutsu and reading new stuff, but he simply felt it best to leave it to the clones while he trained his physical skills. Not just combat, but also trapping and tracking. Not just combat, but also trapping and tracking, as it had also been introduced the most. Not just combat, but also trapping and tracking, as it had been introduced during the most recent term. After applying the resistance seal, Naruto would wake up and run every morning. He'd alternate between normal and ninja running. He'd then do some stretching to increase his flexibility and some strength building exercises, various types of push-ups, for example. He'd then do some stretching to increase his flexibility and some strength building exercise, various types of push-ups for examples. Next, he'd roll out his seal and practice taijutsu and bugijutsu. For those who don't know, bugijutsu, I think it's what? Staff jutsu. Yeah, it's basically staff jutsu, using a staff instead of a sword. With a sword, it's kenjutsu, so it makes sense that using a staff would be bugijutsu, I think. But yeah, I didn't do my research, so yeah. He'd spend 2 hours on each, alternating days between staff and eskrima work. Still don't know what that is, but yeah. Except for Sundays, that would be his day of rest. He'd hunt and forage for his lunch and take an hour break after. Then he'd practice his shuriken jutsu for an hour. He'd utilize kunai, shuriken, and even senbon, since he had them for etching. He'd do another round of stretching and then a cool down. Run before returning home for a shower and an afternoon relaxation. That was how his summer went, and besides for practicing chakra control or sparring him, his clones were dedicated to solving his latest problem. They were lucky to find what they needed at the library, and the answers came from the same clan. Tsunade Senju for the medical part, Toka Senju for the genjutsu. And Naruto was lucky as both books Healer and Fighter, A Combat Medic's Journey and Forest for the trees, Illusion and You included the types of jutsu Naruto needed and additional exercises and ideas to improve his chakra control. The next year went much like the previous. The 10-year-old Uzumaki trained and studied, making time to visit his Oji-sen and have some ramen from the nice Ichiraku people. He started winning occasional against the claners and even tried a little more in his theoretical segments. It got Iruka sensei off his back, and Naruto decided that it was enough of a reason to do so. The only person he couldn't beat yet was Sasuke Uchiha. The boy just fought like defeat was death, and Naruto got the impression that the last Uchiha didn't see his classmate as future comrades. His Oji-sen said that boy was lonely and in pain. Naruto didn't disagree, but his iron reminded him too much of the villagers at the times, and Naruto didn't want to deal with him any more than he had to. The Uzumaki slowly made his way through Volume 7. It was about linking and merging seal arrays, how to make different arrays compatible enough to be merged, or how to build the bridge if they weren't. It also focused on other methods of activation, like timers or changes in weight or temperature. There were several non-chakra methods to activate seals. Experts could even use emotional states to activate a seal. Since this book included even more advanced symbols and sealing languages, Naruto had to work slowly. He didn't want to divert the attention of his clones, who were making steady progress, slow but steady. The school year focused more on soft shinobi skills like infiltration and information gathering. Iruka Sensei spoke about being able to adopt different persona to fool others and what went into making a believable cover story. Iruka Sensei said the henge was a good short-term solution, but most shinobi could see right through it. That didn't sound right to Naruto, and it would plant a seed in his head for his first original jutsu. By the way, guys, I just got I'm gonna start using a new editing app. Yeah, the last one I was using was Camtasia. They hit me with the watermark, and I was not happy about it. But editing is actually important. I just realized that. I don't think you guys would like to hear me swallowing saliva for about 7 minutes straight. But enough about that. Let's get back right into it. It was the middle of July, under the shade of a large tree. Naruto Uzumaki also. It was the middle of July, under the shade of a large tree. Naruto Uzumaki almost vibrated with excitement. It was finally done. He was ready to activate his creation. If one were to see Naruto, they would see him staring at his bracelet of small beads, black with orange symbols. Nothing really stood out about them, but that was only a trick. Naruto pulsed his chakra into the first bead and felt the chakra feed back into him. It lit up for 1 minute before the invasion of chakra stopped. Naruto then fed chakra into a second bead. And then a screen of information only he could see emerged. It had his height, weight, blood type, chakra characteristics, and other information provided. It had his height, weight, blood type, chakra characteristics, and other information provided by the most basic diagnostic jutsu. Naruto wanted to chart his progress, and knew he needed detailed information about his body to do so. That's why Tsunade's book was so important. Toka's book allowed him to feed that information into a genjutsu-like projection. Only the person attuned to the bracelet could see. Naruto then pulsed chakra into the third bead and then took off. The third bead was a modified tracking seal. It would tell Naruto how far he ran and how fast. The diagnostic bead would keep track of his vitals and oxygen levels. There were 8 beads in total. One was a protection barrier he could erect at any moment, another a compressed storage seal. Not every bead was currently marked, and Naruto was just so happy he got his year-long project to work. After his workout, Naruto looked at the information provided and smiled. He had his resistance seals off and now had a baseline. He decided he was going to really push himself these last 2 years in order to be as prepared as he could be. Naruto ran home and took a shower. Once he was out, he put on some Olivia cargo shorts and a blue shirt with a white spiral at the center of his chest. His clones handed him another beaded bracelet and slipped in and his clones handed him another beaded bracelet and he slipped on his blue sandals before darting toward the Hokage Tower. Because he didn't have his resistance seals reactivated, Naruto managed to move at impressive speed. He followed proper etiquette and was granted access to his Ojisen. The third Hokage was curious what had Naruto so excited and became even more so when the third Hokage was curious on what had Naruto so excited and became even more so when the boy handed him a bracelet and commanded him to put it on. He resented, trusting the boy. I even engraved it myself, so I made you one. What does it do, Naruto-kan? You have to sync it to your chakra so no one else can use it. You have to sync it to your chakra so no one else can use it. Then pulse it into those 3 beads. Then you will see what it can do. Just don't fight it. He reasoned, quirked his eyebrow, but did as the boy said. He felt the chakra invade his system, but knew it was his own, so he was confused. Once it stopped, he repeated the progress and felt another invasion and saw his own vitals. He dismissed the view and activated the other beads. A storage seal and a tracking one meant to chart progress from training. The Hokage was near speechless. I'm so proud of you, Naruto. This is amazing. Naruto felt the familiar warmth bloom in his chest. It intensified when his Ojisen hugged him. He liked it. For the next 2 years, on a few things of note occurred for the Uzumaki. The first was making his first friend. It happened while he was training. He heard someone making noise and went to check it out. It was his classmate, Hyuga Hinata, and she was crying. They'd never really interacted before, outside of him stepping in when she was getting bullied once. He didn't even know she was getting bullied. She just looked pained by what the boys were doing and wanted to understand why they were doing it. They were weirded out by his questions and left. He just shrugged and left as well. His Ojisen had mentioned people sometimes His Ojisen once mentioned people sometimes like to be held or hugged when they cry. He said he did it with his grandson Konohamaru when he was a baby. Naruto figured if it were good enough for him, it might work, so he sat beside her and put one arm around her. She flinched, startled that someone would touch or even comfort her. "Are you okay?" Naruto asked, and the question surprised her. He was honestly asking, as if he truly didn't know the answer to the question. She shook her head, no, as she tried to gather herself. "May I ask what happened?" Maruji-sensei's talking helps. "I'm a failure." "Oh, in what way?" "As an heiress. In my family arts, my father doesn't find me suitable." "Is he right?" Naruto asked, and Hinata flinched again. He was confused. To fail would seemingly be pretty objective. He wondered if she were given nebulous parameters. Hi, she whispered lowly, wanting to curl into herself. "Then change it," he said neutrally. Normally one would feel judged, but Naruto said it so blankly, Hinata was so confused. "Then change it," he said neutrally. Normally one would feel so judged, but Naruto said it so blankly, Hinata was more confused than offended. If you fail, then there is a standard. You have to find out why you don't meet that standard, and then create a plan to achieve your goal. It's how I started challenging the claners when we sparred. "I'm not strong like you, Naruto-kun." She'd seen the boys' improvements over their time at the academy, and it seemed to be continuous. "No, I don't imagine you would be," He said, and she felt her heart ache. That was just cold. But you're strong like Hinata. So you should. He's a Sigma Chad, guys. He's a Sigma Chad. That's Sigma behavior right there. You're strong like Hinata. So you should build on that. Not try to emulate someone. Not try to emulate someone else. She chuckled when he nodded his head sagely after his words. I train every day and I don't know if you'd be interested. But if you want to join me sometime and spar or whatever, I'd do that. What? Why? Maruji-san said we are all comrades and should be willing to help each other. Also, I don't know why, but I feel like I don't know why, but I don't like seeing people sad. It feels wrong. Also, failing at something is just another chance to succeed next time. I fail a lot because I try a lot. So you're a proud failure? Naruto smiled. I think I like that. Just as he finished, he saw a Kunoichi appear before them. She had black wavy hair, red eyes, and a bandaged dress. Naruto could only come to one conclusion. One, he spoke with zero shame. You're uncommonly attractive. The yet unidentified woman only smiled at the boy's forwardness. She'd heard about the Uzumaki and knew he meant nothing by it. Only that it was true to him. Thank you, Uzumaki-kan. But some women might get offended if you compliment them so boldly without knowing their names at least. So introduce ourselves and then tell you? Maybe. It depends. Besides, if word gets around, you call women attractive and you don't do it for some. Alright, okay. Besides, if word gets around, you call women attractive and you don't do it for some, they'll be offended. So some will be offended if I do it. And others if I don't. This is confusing. I'm going to have to ask Oji-san about this. Well, I need to go. I'll see you around, Hinata. Bye, Naruto-kan. Hinata, Kurenai started. What your father said it... Hinata, Kurenai started. What your father said, it isn't true. It isn't true. What your father said, it isn't true. Yes, it is. But it doesn't have to stay that way. After that day, the two trained together 3 times a week, and because they were each other's best friends, Naruto was always honest with Hinata, willing to help her overcome any problem she identified and believed she could succeed. He could be blunt and awkward, but she simply learned to speak his language. He had his own form of kindness and caring. Naruto got a different perspective on emotions and why people act the way they do. He'd never heard of shyness before Hinata. For instance, she also helped him with the ethics of creating and performing the sexy jutsu. Oh my gosh, not this again. The second significant thing is Naruto completed the other 3 variations of Fuinjutsu volumes. Naruto Volume 8 was on... The second significant thing is Naruto completed the other 3 Fuinjutsu volumes. Volume 8 was on Juinjutsu, how to create them, how to counter them. It also included how to expand and condense arrays, how to see full arrays without activating the seals, and methods of seal concealment and cloaking. Volume 9 was about space-time Fuinjutsu ninjutsu, and mostly it covered summoning and advancing storage seals to create stable pocket dimensions, but it led to Naruto's next project and the third significant thing. Volume 10 was about materialization and learning to create complex seals on the fly from all the elements that had been covered. The volume really leaned on the creative aspects of sealing, how all the languages symbols and other information was the same. It was up to the Fuinjutsu user to make it something unique. His Oji-san was so proud of Naruto for completing all the volumes, and he promised he'd get Naruto certified as a sealing master as soon as he graduated. The tests Naruto had to take were the official tests, but he couldn't certify the results until Naruto was a shinobi. Naruto was hesitant. Hinata explained that one to him. As he saw how happy his Oji-san was, but he had to ask the question. It startled the third Hokage so much, he asked Naruto to repeat it. Is the fourth Hokage my father? Oji-san? Yes. Hiruzen knew he could have lied, but lying would have risked their friendship. He decided to trust the blonde instead. I didn't tell you because your father had so many enemies, Naruto-kan, and they would love nothing more than to get revenge by hurting you. I'm sorry I had to keep that knowledge from you. Did my mom and he, did they love me? So very much. You'd never seen two people more excited about being parents. They'd be so proud of you, Naruto-kan. They are both masters of Fuinjutsu and would be delighted you continued their clan specialty. I'm an actual Uzumaki? Yes, Kushina Uzumaki was your mother. Hiruzen watched as Naruto processed the information. He shifted through several faces and Hiruzen felt the need to ask, Naruto, how are you feeling? I don't know. Like I missed something I never had. Wistful, Naruto-kan. It means yearning or longing. That's what you're feeling. Oh, I don't think I like it. I think it's making me sad, and I don't like that either. Hiruzen went and hugged his grandson. I know my boy. Wait, let me do that Hiruzen voice. Wait, guys. I know my boy. The fatherly. Let me do the grandfatherly voice. I know my boy. I know. But even negative emotions should be felt, as they are a part of you and can help you grow. It shows even if they were taken from you so early. You three were bonded, and that goes beyond life and death. Don't let your emotions control you, but don't deny them either. They make you human, and they make you real. He felt the boy, that was great actually. He felt the boy nod his head against his chest as he rubbed his back soothingly. The two would speak about his parents. Naruto entrapped by the details. Hiruzen promised to start funneling his inheritance to him as soon as he opened up a bank account. Did Naruto ever have his inheritance? I don't know, guys. I think I've been reading too much fan fictions now that I'm not even sure if Naruto had an inheritance like in the actual series. But it would be cool if he did actually. Imagine if he could use the flying Raijin. Honestly, that would be cool. But then again, I don't know. Hiruzen promised to start funneling his inheritance to him as soon as he opened up an account at a shinobi bank, but made it clear Naruto was to tell no one until he was at least chunin, but preferably a seasoned jonin. Naruto agreed, and they partly company. The boy seemingly lighter. The final significant event was Naruto learning what he contained. It felt weird knowing what so many people were afraid of, that he and the seal couldn't really hold back the Kyuubi. It also felt weird knowing his dad did it to him. It also felt weird his dad did it and his mom was once a Chinchuriki. The term his Oji-san used. Oji-san said there was little choice and it would have been dishonorable to select another child. He said no one knew of Naruto's status until the age of 3, and he promised if he ever discovered who leaked it, he'd murder them where they stood. Naruto told him it was okay. It was good to know he didn't feel. Naruto told him it was okay. It was good to know. He didn't feel much, though. He didn't feel much in the way of negativity. The people hadn't been very welcoming but there wasn't much to do. Besides, he had his Oji-san and Hinata, and even Yuhi-san. That proved he could make connections. So that's why he'd do it. Yeah, this is another time skip. Yeah. As Naruto sat beside Hinata, reminiscing about the last several years, he barely noticed Hinata take a seat beside him. He smiled at his friend, acknowledging her arrival and she smiled back. Hinata had changed over the last 2 years. She was still quiet and reserved, but not as shy or insecure. They had fought and struggled but gained a sense of confidence in herself. She realized there was no magic into improving oneself. It was just hard work. And while she may have been easily discouraged in the past, she was not afraid of hard work. She just had to realize there wasn't some personality trait she was lacking. Every day she would, with the help of with the help of her friend and her caretaker, she would push herself. The developments hadn't gone unnoticed within her clan, even if her father hadn't resented, whatever. His previous statements about her overall worth. "Hi Naruto-kun," she said. The Hyuga heiress was wearing a two-tone lavender jacket, blue pants with matching sandals. She wore a headband around her neck, and her hair was to her shoulder blade. "Good morning, Hinata," Naruto said. He'd also allow his hair to grow up, the spikes staying as prevalent as before, two framing his face and hanging over his headband. He wore an orange and black jacket with a red uzumaki spiral on the back. His pants were black as well as his sandals, those coming up to his shins. Naruto still wore his beaded bracelets at all times. Hinata wore hers as well. The beads an indigo color, with white irises patterned throughout. He'd given her the collective seal 6 months ago as a token of their friendship, and she treated it like the most precious of jewels. After the brief greeting, the two sat in silence, observing the classroom and waiting patiently. Their silence was ruined by two newly minted Kunoichi charging in, arguing about who would sit next to Uchiha Sasuke, and the two continued on until Iruka Sensei yelled at him to take a seat. The two continued on until Iruka Sensei yelled at them to take a seat. They did, but not before Sakura glared at him and Ino winked at him. Naruto simply waved back, not understanding why Sakura-san was so mad at him. Soon after he turned 12. This is actually funny. I read this before like I went through the fiction, the chapter, and this was what I found most funny, honestly. Soon after Naruto had turned 12, he told Sakura, Ino, and Hinata that once they all reached sexual maturity, he would be willing to engage in sexual acts with them, as they'd likely be very attractive. He didn't think it was a big deal since he was 4 years away. Sakura-san freaked out and tried to hit him, which she failed to do. Ino laughed and said he was much too forward. Hinata blushed and explained it was indecent to make such an offer with girls he barely knew. He'd add and never brought it up again, but Sakura-sen has had a sincere dislike of him ever since. "Now I will announce your teams. Don't interrupt me," Iruka said and began listing the teams. Hiruzen shepherded Kakashi through Naruto's apartment. It was a decent-sized apartment for a child, a living room with a red couch and chair, a coffee table and a television. There was also a stack in the corner with books stacked on it. There were also a weapons stand containing a wood quarterstaff and 2 ratans. The kitchenette had a standard 2-sided sink, stove, and oven, and the shelf space above and below the counters. Kakashi rummaged through the shelves and the fridge. He was mildly surprised at what he found: fruits, vegetables, nuts, and recently hunted game. dairy products as well. The cabinets had instant ramen and granola along with the necessary pantry items to cook. Not what you'd not what I'd expect from a lifelong orphan. He'd asked me to teach him how to shop when he read a book about shinobi diets. Hmm. Why did you need me to come along with me? Why did you need to come along with me, Hokage-sama? You wouldn't have gotten in otherwise, Hiruzen said, and saw Kakashi's disbelief. He's finished all 10 of the Funjutsu volumes, tested and passed each exam. He's a certified seal master. The dog summoner hid his shock well. Do you understand what I'm telling you, Kakashi? Hi. Even if he should fail the test, he has to be able. Even if he fails the test, he has to be a shinobi. Too much potential not to. Yes. Also, he knows about his parents and very likely knows or will know you were his father's student. Great. Anything else I should know? You know about how he processes and shows his emotions, yes? The Johnny nodded. Then that should be enough to go on. Okay, I should have enough to go on. I will depart, Hokage-sama. Hiruzen nodded and Kakashi left. Hiruzen did as well and felt the security measures return as soon as he closed the door. He took one last look at the door and hoped he'd make the right decision. As Naruto was in the top 10 of the class, he shouldn't be on Kakashi's team, but he felt he owed the young Jonin. Hiruzen hoped he hadn't done right by one party only to do wrong by the other, and dreaded the reality that only time could only tell. Another time skip. This guy who wrote this is actually wise. Some of these things I'm reading, it's crazy. But they also give me ideas for my book, for the fan fiction I'm writing. I'm hoping to get at least 500,000 words in before I start reading it. No, maybe that's too much actually. Maybe 100k words. Yeah, maybe 100k words. Then I'll start doing it. Hopefully, I'll be done on March. Yeah, hopefully. I'm not sure. But yeah, Kakashi arrived to the training ground and expected all 3 of his potential students to be in a hurry or irate. 2 were, though only the girl voiced her displeasure. So much for the shinobi rules, Kakashi thought. The blonde was fine, which could only mean one thing. You ate, didn't you? Hi, even though it went against my orders. Bad orders, Hatake-sen. Kakashi simply eye-smiled, then retrieved 2 bells from his pocket. You have 1 hour to obtain these bells. The one who doesn't get sent back to the academy. How is there 2 or thirds bell? How is there 2 or thirds fail rate if 2 of us can get the 2 bells? Natsu wondered. The others likely would have as well if not hungry and anxious. Something isn't right here. You may begin, stated Kakashi after setting the timer, and the 2 of them went to hide. The one remaining was Uzumaki. The Uzumaki, his face neutral. Shouldn't you be hiding? No. From the shinobi tactics book I've read, hiding is unsound. You have what we want. You have no reason to pursue us. Our inaction benefits you, and as we had no agreed upon plan or even rendezvous point, the other 2 didn't retreat with the goal of working with me or each other. The copycat said, but he couldn't disagree. While he would go after them, if this were a real life situation, he'd have no reason to do so. He'd pull out his book to read, hoping to get a rise out of the blonde specifically, or one of the others. It didn't work, to his confusion. The chibi Yodai threw a purse of Rio coins at him. Jonin Hatake-san. I would like to enter negotiations for your service. This is so simple. If only. Joining Hatake-sen. I would like to enter negotiations for your services. This is actually funny. What the Oh, and what would you like me to do? A retrieval mission. When? Now. Can't. Busy. Can I have a bell? No, sorry. If you want one, you'll have to take it. Sasuke and Naruto both thought Naruto was an idiot for trying to bribe their sensei and avoid putting forth any effort. They saw Naruto touch one of the they saw Naruto touch one of his beads, and then Kuna and Shuriken started coming out of from nowhere, all aimed at Kakashi Sensei. Kakashi saw the weapons and decided to perform a quick substitution, but as soon as he gathered the chakra, it dispersed, and he felt himself go rigid. The projectiles passed right through him. They were simple clones. He saw he saw the blonde wrap his chest. Pleased. He saw the blonde wrap his chest. I'm trying to imagine what this would look like actually. Honestly, it looks funny. It would look funny if you ask. Pleased. Pleased. He saw the blonde wrap his chest. Pleased. I think this is pleased. Hareke Kakashi-sen, please give me the parameters of the real test. Kakashi said nothing but inwardly was impressed. The bells are clearly for the taking, Naruto-kan. Hi, they are also a decoy, at least to some extent. Now please explain. Sorry, no can do. I could beat you until you did. I could beat you until you did. Trust me, kid, you don't have the skills nor the time to break me. Yeah, I figured as much. Must be teamwork then. Since the state objective is false, you clearly aren't testing us on ruthlessness. Also, two bells, but two will fail. The math doesn't shake out. Well done, Naruto. You want to release me? Not until Sasuke and Sakura grab the bells. When Naruto said that, his teammates came from their hiding spots and did exactly that. Naruto entered the seal and Kakashi could feel his chakra flowing again. How did you do that, Naruto? It was smart staying here so late, but 2 a.m. simply wasn't late enough. I prepped the field after you left. How did you trigger it? You didn't emit any chakra. Didn't need chakra, Naruto said, and Kakashi thought quickly, reaching the conclusion at speeds only geniuses could. He realized Naruto used a pressure trigger. The coins was likely to make up for Naruto not knowing his specific weight. The chakra for the substitution was the final activation. Kakashi had been led around by his nose by a fresh from the academic genin. That was embarrassing. Well, you are a team for a probationary period. What? Why a probationary period? Sasuke asked. Naruto broke the test. You know what to do, so there would be no point in retesting you. Be back here tomorrow at 7 a.m. sharp, Kakashi said, shunshining away afterward. Way to go, idiot. Yeah, thanks, dummy. I'd prefer you not to insult me. I don't like it. Besides, neither of you knew the secret of the test, and I have no reason to assume you would have figured it out. I will see you tomorrow, Naruto said, and then departed. Neither Sasuke nor Sakura could argue with his statements. Kakashi arrived at the third Hokage's office, being granted immediate entry. When he walked in, he saw a full of jonin. When he walked in, he saw a room full of jonin and the third Hokage all smirking at him. He then saw the crystal ball on the third Hokage's desk and slouched. Team 7 provisionally pass, he said, and everyone started to laugh. It would be a long time before the copy ninja lived down. Getting subdued by a brat. So, yeah, that's the end. Yeah, so this came from the idea of Naruto creating a shinobi Fitbit. Consider these the seals are easy, people are hard challenge. I may return to this, but no, cut that out. Okay, One thing to note here is Naruto is a pervert, but doesn't realize it. He'll be so confused as to why Jiraiya is considered a super pervert, but so bad at it. Yeah. But this is actually great. I've read this fanfiction, but I think I once dropped it. I don't remember the reason why. But yeah, I think it's a great fanfiction. Yeah, I'm glad to be doing it with you guys and reading it to you guys. And yeah, if you like the fanfiction, be sure to drop a like and let me know in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe, guys. And yeah, that's it. Well, this is the end. What did you think of the video? And yes, there are a lot of mistakes, but just as I said before, we are still a growing channel. We are still learning from our mistakes. But if you enjoyed the video, be sure to drop a comment and let us know whether we should continue the series or not. Thank you. Thank you all for listening. And see you next time on Rooster's What Ifs.